Welcome to the First Things First podcast. And first things first, we need you to subscribe and leave comments letting us know what you think of the show. We're listening. I'm Nick Wright, joined by two of my favorite people, Jenna Wolfe, Cris Carter. Now, let's get the show started.
Oh, good morning. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. That's Nick Wright.
This time Monday morning, we're going to know who's in the Super Bowl.
Yes, we will.
All year long, we've talked about it.
Yes.
It's our last show we do without knowing it. I'm so excited.
This is what we look like without having Super Bowl knowledge.
Exactly right. And this is what Cris looks like after being poisoned by his co-host.
Oh, right. Okay.
We will get to that at some point in these 3 hours.
Is
if
he
Jenna
here?
Wolfe offers you candy or food product, make sure you check out the details, country of origin, and expiration date.
Sometimes your intelligence backfires, okay?
This isn't one of them.
He's here and he's alive. You are here and you alive. And really, at the end of the day, when the bar is that low, that's all that matters.
My stomach hurts like Tom Brady's hand.
Speaking of the hand of Tom Brady, if you are the Patriots quarterback and you bang your hand in practice days before the AFC title game, it's not that big a deal. If you're limited in practice on Wednesday as a result, kind of a big deal. If you miss practice Thursday and the line starts to move towards Jacksonville's favor, more of a big deal. Good thing they've got a backup quarterback in case of emergency. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Cece, should we be concerned now that Tom Brady has missed practice Thursday and was limited on Wednesday?
I'm a big practice guy.
Yeah.
And anytime that I see a guy's practicing, sometimes it's warranted. Sometimes the coach is going to give a player a certain time. There's bumps and bruises, especially on Wednesday. Coaches are a little more lenient. Training staff is a little more lenient. But when we get to this time of the year, because timing is so crucial, and being with your teammates on the field, all guys who can practice, they practice as much as their body allows them to. Tom Brady is a workout fanatic. He loves watching film. He loves being on the practice field with his teammates. So it's easier for me to jump to a conclusion with Tom because I've seen this. Other guys, I wouldn't be as concerned about. But with Tom, I know he wants to get every snap. Tom even wants to take the kneel down at the end of game. So I know it's very important. If he gets dinged on a Wednesday practice and then he misses part or most of the Thursday practice, of course I'm going to be concerned because Wednesday and Thursday is where they do most of the installation and most of the running. On Friday, it's just more maintenance, throwing out some things. They don't throw the ball as much. Now, Tom has more experience than anyone that's ever played this game. Now, he's going to need it, especially if he's banged up. But if he's banged up, watch for New England to change their game plan. Either watch for him try to throw the ball really short, either sideways, horizontally compared to vertically, and watch for him to try to run the ball because even though Tom's hand might be banged up, they know they're playing against Blake Bortles. So they're going to have a game plan that I believe is going to reflect that Tom's hand was injured in practice, and we're going to see a very, very different game plan, I think, come Sunday by Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Before I give my opinion on this, I just want to follow up with a question for you on that. How hard is it to change the game plan Thursday?
It's not that hard for New England.
Okay.
Because they have a variance of game plans going in. Like they might have come out and started throwing the ball, but saying we're going to get the lead, then eventually we're going to run the ball. And they are more game-specific, injury-specific, if they don't have Gronk, what they're going to do, if they don't have a James White. So it's easier for them to adjust than other teams. So that right there makes you have less concern because it's New England.
All right, so I'm the resident gambling guy on the show. Vegas did take note of this. Vegas took note of this. The line moved more from Wednesday to Thursday than the line would have moved if Rob Gronkowski was ruled out of the game.
Wow.
The line moved 1.5, 2 points in some spots. Gronk's worth between 1 point and 1.5 points. So this was a significant line move from the Pats to 9.5 point favorites.
And tell people what that means. That's the people are shifting where they're betting.
All of a sudden, a lot of money came in on Jacksonville. Now, maybe that was just Joe Public who saw our show, saw Skip and Shannon, said, oh, my God, Brady hurt his hand. It might be broken. Let me bet a bunch of money on the Jags. Or maybe it's sharp bettors. Maybe it's people with information saying, oh, there's now value on the Jaguars. But the line moving that much with one thing changing, to me, makes it noteworthy. Brady then missing practice So I knew the line move before I knew Brady missed practice. Brady then missing practice compounds it. But I also have to say, the Pats, if Brady had to play left-handed, then this quarterback matchup's a draw because they're up against Blake Bortles. This game's in Gillette. The Jags are coming off consecutive, very difficult playoff games, very different playoff games. The first one was a slugfest 10-3. The second one, a high-scoring duel. The Patriots, meanwhile, had a week off and then blew out the Titans. This is if you thought the Pats were going to win prior to this, to me, this is not reason to change your opinion. The Pats, in my eyes, are still heavy favorites going into this football game because of the experience, because of where the game is, and because no one thinks Brady's not going to play. No one thinks Brady's going to be out of the football game, just maybe not quite as effective as you would have hoped he could be.
Question for you. Just if we talk about him changing the game plan, what does it mean for the way, and I don't know this, the way you grip the football? Because you throw, right, with your fingertips. So what is the fact that your thumb is injured? Does that affect the distance he can throw, the velocity that he can throw?
Right. They haven't been specific as far as is it the hand, is it a thumb, or a finger? If it's thumb, which a lot of quarterbacks hurt their thumbs more so when they're throwing because they release, their thumb goes down, and it typically hits someone's helmet. So it's typically some type of bone bruise. Hope it's not the same bruise as Sam Bradford, because if not, he's going to lose his hand. But it stings for a couple days, and I could see from a caution standpoint, also it makes sense why they had an X-ray. All right, if there was some immediate swelling, immediately get an X-ray at the facility to make sure that you know that it's not broken. And then the next day, you're going to keep it compressed to make sure that the swelling and try to get it to die down before game day. New England is very, very fortunate. It's going to be unseasonably warm this weekend, and that is going to help. If it had been the normal in the 20s, wind chill in the teens, that would affect a quarterback's hand more so. And anytime you see Tom Brady wearing a glove, because he does not like to wear a glove, that's an alarm, too, right there, that something is a little bit different than what we're used to seeing.
Or that they want to cover up whatever it is and not let anyone see. And I know you think Mother Nature, as well as the refs and everyone else, is rooting for the Patriots. So there you go, Nick.
I don't know who's rooting for the Pats, but I do know this. We thought it being unseasonably warm 48 hours ago, that was good for the Jags.
Right.
That all of a sudden the Jags aren't going to have to deal with the elements. It's interesting now with this, it could tilt it to where the Patriots are happy about this. I can't hear this, though, and not think about what was the biggest story of the Patriots' regular season, which is trading Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I understand they have to deal with where they're at right now. I understand Brian Hoyer's their backup quarterback. He has experience in the system. But this is a team that doesn't carry three quarterbacks, that had, without question, going into this year, the best quarterback situation in the league's best backup quarterback, and a third stringer who has shown he can start games and win games for multiple teams in this league. To go from that to be in the AFC Championship game where Brian Hoyer who hasn't taken a meaningful snap for the Patriots in years, where Brian Hoyer's your backup quarterback, it does make me think about not only the article about why Garoppolo was traded, the timing where he was traded, that entire circumstance.
CC, what would have to happen for Brian Hoyer to be playing football on Sunday?
Oh, a disaster. They didn't send something from North Korea and it's didn't hit us if he gets in the game. I mean, it's...
So he's going to play with his thumb like this. I mean, they have to be. Could he be playing and they're losing so badly they pull him?
Let's not forget, Tom Brady is a football player. All right, he's going to be out there. That's his team. All right, it's his legacy at stake. All right, let's not get carried away. If he can't play, if he can't grip the football, Bill and them are going to make the best decision for the football team, just like they do anything else. Tom Brady will get a chance to play. Now, can Jacksonville take advantage of the injury? And he's going to be very fortunate because it's a lot easier to grip the football when it's above freezing, which it's going to be on Sunday.
Look, I'm no drama queen, but Patriots backup quarterback Brian Hoyer practiced in Brady's place because of that injured hand. And at last check, Jimmy Garoppolo is enjoying his offseason. New England is favored by more than a touchdown in this one. So what chance do the Jags have here? Head coach Doug Marrone got some interesting advice on this.
Want to beat the Patriots? Here's how. Advice from your #1 fans, the Bulls first grade. That's the one thing I will say about this week. It's kind of thrown me off.
Will you find time to go through
I find it hard to believe how so many people have an opinion on how to beat the New England Patriots, and no one's really have done that.
So give it up to the first-grade class at Bowles School, who gave Marone a whole packet with advice to taking down the Pats.
That's all.
See, advice from grade schoolers aside, and it's adorable, really. I'm surprised more schools haven't done this in and around the Jacksonville area. What is the key to this matchup?
Well, they haven't been in the championship game since, I think, since '99. So the kids have gone on to college.
The last kids to write those letters were the parents of the kids writing these letters.
Right.
I mean, Doug Marone is right that it is hard to come up with a calculated, educated, realistic plan to beat New England, especially in playoff games in Foxborough. But the one thing that Jacksonville has on its side, and I know Doug Marone is preaching this to Jacksonville. There's been 4 times you had this type of matchup where you had the NFL's leading passer against the #1 pass defense it's happened since 1990. This will be the 4th time. If Doug Marone, if he's on the right side of history, they will be 4-0 after this game because the #1 defense has shut down the #1 passer in the 3 previous times. They're 3-0. So the path to victory is this defense. Defense wins championships. Our boy Ray Lewis talks about that's what got him 2 championships. Jacksonville's path to victory is by shutting down Tom, making them one-dimensional, which they might be if he has a serious hand injury, and creating turnovers. That's the only way you're going to be able to beat New England, and that's especially the only way that you're going to be able to beat them in Foxborough.
So I know everyone's going to focus on strength versus strength. Patriots offense against Jags defense. It's the most interesting matchup. It involves Tom Brady. It involves all the great characters and players on the Jags defense. I want to flip it around just for a moment because here's what we know about the Patriots offense. They're getting to 20 points. They get to 20 over the last 3 years in games that Brady's played all the way through. They've been held under 19 twice.
In 3 years.
In the last 3 years, it's happened twice, held under 19. Once a 16-3 win against Denver, where they really took their foot off the gas last year. They probably could have scored more. And one, a 20-18 loss to Denver in the AFC Championship game a couple years ago. So Denver's the only team that's held Tom Brady under 19 points in the last 3 seasons. So the reason I mention that is the Jags defense can play great. Offense still got to get to 20. Or the team as a whole still has to get to 20. I don't think you can hold this Patriots. I don't think you can beat this Patriots team, no matter how good your defense is, 13-6. Remember when Ray was out here and I asked him, how many points did you guys feel like you guys needed? And he said 3. We only needed 3. And while that seemed hyperbolic, that team only allowed 10 points per game. This Jags defense, best defense in the NFL, they still allow 16 points per game. That's on league average. The Patriots will get to their 20. So how can the Jags get to that point total? To me, that is almost the underrated key of this football game, and I don't see them being able to do that unless Leonard Fournette has a massive football game.
They can do it with the defense. The defense could create turnovers. They could score a touchdown. They could put them in field goal range with a field goal. I think one of the major differences is Pittsburgh's defense was not great in the red zone. They did not slow down Jacksonville. I believe New England's defense, they will tighten up. Jacksonville might get some yards on them, but they are exceptional in the red zone. So those trips, if Jacksonville has one less trip in the red zone yesterday, where they converted to a touchdown, they lose to Pittsburgh. Right? But when they got into the red zone, they got touchdowns. And that was a huge part to the game because at the end, you know, that was a big difference. So New England, people that say they don't like their defense, they give up a lot of yards. Man, it's points. How many points will they be able to negate one from the red zone?
Who's had the most success against the Patriots in the Super Bowl in the last couple of years?
The Giants.
The Giants and Tom Coughlin. How much of this week is going to be about Doug Marone knocking on Tom Coughlin's door? And I understand Blake Bortles is no Eli Manning, but how much is going to be like, okay, you game planned against Tom Brady and a good portion of that offense?
I want to make a point on that because I've heard so many people bring up that exact point. The Giants, what's the Giants' methodology? What was the Broncos' methodology? It seems to me their methodology of beating the Patriots is... It's nothing special about the Patriots or those teams. It's about the personnel they had. Because what's their methodology? Get to the quarterback without having to send extra guys. Get to the quarterback with a 4-man rush. Cece, tell me if I'm wrong. Isn't that every team's hope? Isn't that every game plan?
But the Giants made it work, and everyone goes in trying to do that.
Every team can't do that.
Agreed.
Every team does not have Pro Bowl corners. Every team does not have the type of rushers that they had that compile the type of sacks. So, no, they want to, I mean, they say they want to get pressure, but they know they got to blitz to get pressure. So, no, every team's job is not to say, we're going to rush forward today, because they know they can't get there.
Go ahead, Jenna.
I was going to say, then how did the Giants figure out a way to do it?
They had the guys. They had the personnel, which is why the
NASCAR package.
Right. They could put 4D. Go ahead.
Yep. They could have a rotation of 7 guys, and when they got to 3rd down and long, they put in almost all speed guys. But the combination of what they had up front and their linebackers, they were physical in the secondary. They realized you had to bump these guys off the line of scrimmage. So collectively, the front end tied up with the back end, and that's what led to the victory.
And you don't see hints of that with this Jacksonville team?
No, I absolutely do see hints of that, because of the point that I'm making is a lot of people are drawing the Tom Coughlin comparison. I think Cris Carter could be the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their game plan is going to be the same. It's about the guys. It's about whether it's Justin Tucker, Calais Campbell.
The biggest difference is when you have your voice in the room, you have proof. Tom Coughlin, I will listen to him on anything football, and especially how do you beat the Patriots. Doug Marrone said it. All these people out here giving advice on how to beat the Patriots, don't nobody know better than Tom Coughlin. So you can believe Tom Coughlin. He got Calais Campbell. He got A.J. Bouye. All these people came with Tom Coughlin. Doug Marrone's physical style, it matches Tom Coughlin. If you think Doug Marrone, he's a good football coach. If you're not taking advantage of the asset in Tom Coughlin, you are naive. Tom Coughlin is playing a bigger role in this game than the other 2 victories in the playoffs.
New topic, NFC Championship game time. Philly hosting the Vikings. Shockingly, the gift shops in both Philly and Minnesota have yet to sell out their Nick Foles and Case Keenum merchandise. But the jerseys that just say the word defense on the back of them are going like hotcakes. Nick Foles, Case Keenum, and 2 incredible defenses. CC, I ask you, what do you think the Eagles need to do to pull off the upset against Minnesota?
There'll be a lot of pressure on Nick Foles. It's so easy. You watch a lot of shows, people talk about Nick Foles, what he's got to do. But if the Eagles' defense does not play great, I don't see how the Eagles are going to win. And if Nick Foles happens to not play exceptional football, if the Eagles' defense still plays well, they still have a chance to win the game. I mean, you have to go back to the Saints game. People get consumed with the end of the game, Stephon Diggs. But if you watch that game, the interior of the defensive line, I mean, Cameron Jordan dominated the Vikings. The Vikings have some issues at their right tackle. So for me, looking at the defensive front, I think one of the matchups in the game is the defensive front of the Philadelphia Eagles. Jim Schwartz, he loves to have a rotation. They're the only team in the NFL to have 7 guys that have played over 400 snaps, and they're led by Fletcher Cox. Now, Fletcher Cox, last week, he only played 58% of the snaps during the regular season. But he decided, listen, I am the guy. I'm getting ready to lead this defense. So he played 57 of the 63 snaps in the Atlanta game. And he dominated that football game. I know it's not sexy. People don't like to look at it. But if the Eagles are successful, regardless of what Nick Foles decides to do or not do, that defensive line, their defensive front, they can cause some chaos. Case Keenum, a little bit of a gambler, scrambles with the football, short, has poor vision, turnovers could lead to victory for the Eagles, led by that defensive front.
So what you said there, I think, is really interesting. You can envision a scenario where Nick Foles doesn't play great, but the Eagles still win. You can't envision a scenario where the defense doesn't play great, but the Eagles still win.
There's no chance for them to win.
For the Eagles to win,
they don't have enough firepower on their offense. They don't generate enough big plays. So I don't see that.
Well, and just to amplify that point, when we talk about what a tough matchup the Vikings defense is for the Eagles offense, we've talked about how the Vikings are first or second in almost every statistical category. They're first this year in third downs, right? Which is where the Eagles offense has made hay. But I want to expand on that. They have the best third down defense in 15 years in the NFL. They allow the opposing team to convert less than 25% of their third downs. The best any team's done since 2002. I believe it was the 2002 Bucks, but I'm not certain. But certainly in the last 15 years. So that is what Philadelphia is up against from an offensive perspective, which is why, to your point, CC, if that D-line is not great, they're not going to be able to win because this is not going to be a Steelers-Jags game. This is not going to be a shootout. Like the path to victory for Philadelphia is to slow down the Eagles' offense, and unlike Minnesota, slow down Vikings offense, pardon me. The only part of the Eagles' defense that I look at as elite is that D-line. I think they have good linebackers. I think they have a good secondary. But the part of where they have been great this year is that D-line and that rotation. I think it's really important that people understand how important the rotation is. I think back to a moment in the Rams-Titans Super Bowl where the Titans are driving the field at the end, and one of the Rams' best defensive linemen asks out of the game. And Dick Vermeil the NFL Films, is apoplectic. He's like, what do you do? It's 2 minutes left in the Super Bowl. And he said, Coach, I can't breathe. Coach, I can't breathe, and goes to the sideline. It is so exhausting playing D-line. The constant battling if you're rushing the quarterback. So being able to constantly rotate guys in and out, to have a fresh pass rusher consistently is such an enormous advantage that most teams don't have because most teams just don't have enough people to do it, enough quality D linemen to do it.
What's most appetizing for this Vikings defense is that the Eagles defense is that Case Keenum has been sacked 19 times in the last 7 games. The path is there. But it sounds like from what you guys are saying, if you but if you take both quarterbacks and say they're young and inexperienced, is this just going to come down to who's got the better defense on Sunday?
It's easy to say it's going to come down to the best defense, but, Jenna, the quarterback's going to have to make 3 or 4 plays late in the game.
Okay.
You can't hide them, all right? Neither one of them are going to be able to run the ball in a dominant fashion. They are going to have to drop back, make a read, and they're going to have to make some tight throws into tight coverage. It's not as sexy, or offensive line, defensive line. They're going to rush the passer, but these guys, you won't be able to avoid the spotlight. They will not be able to hide them on the football field on Sunday because they need explosive plays. And if not the explosive plays, who turns the ball over? Because that's big plays for the opposition.
Well, and that is where, if you're rooting for the Eagles, if you're from Philly, if you bet the Eagles, whatever it is, that's the concerning point. Nick Foles has 8 fumbles in 7 games. Nick Foles has fumbled the ball. The first game he ever played this year, he took a kneel down. That was all he did. Came in, take a knee, that's it. In the 7 other games where he's played, that he's actually thrown a pass, he has put the ball on the ground in every single game he's played in. So when you are talking about a team that's going to struggle to score already, if Foles turns the ball over, if the Vikings pass rush gets to him and gets a strip sack, that's the type of thing I don't think the Eagles can overcome. The Philly had been loose with the ball prior to Nick Foles. They turned the ball over in every game this year except for 3 instances. So if there's 17 games played, 14 games they've had a turnover. But early in the year, the offense was so high-powered that you could overcome that. You can overcome those types of miscues. Right now, I don't feel that way. They have to play a clean football game, which, by the way, they weren't able to do against Atlanta. They had early turnovers against Atlanta. They were just able to overcome it because the defense was so good.
And when you say that these quarterbacks have to at least make 3, 4, 5 good, solid plays and put points on the board, I feel like that has to come early for Nick Foles because he needs some confidence early on. And this Eagles team needs an offensive jolt right off the bat, don't you think?
It becomes very important. I mean, confidence begets confidence. And you'll hear the announcers say it's important to get off to a good start. But when you don't have experience, see, Tom Brady, like the Super Bowl last year, he can get off to a bad start. You know why? Because he's got a reservoir, not a film clip. He's got a reservoir of successful clips in his mind that he has been able to come back. He's seen himself doing well. But if you watch Nick Foles last week, he was so nervous when they started this game. And if you think the nerves in the divisional game or something, wait till he gets to the NFC Championship game. Now, Case Keenum, he showed more composure than Nick Foles did. I think one of the things that separates these two quarterbacks is, if we're going to talk about the defenses, If we're going to talk about turnovers and talk over the rush, I believe the athleticism of Case Keenum gives him a huge advantage because he can get out of more trouble than Nick Foles can, but does getting out of trouble and scrambling cause him to turn the football over? That's something that I'll be watching in Sunday's contest.
And that's also something that Case was much better at the first half of the year than the second half of the year. First half of the year, weeks 1 through 9, Case had the best sack percentage against in the league. He was only sacked on 1.6% of his dropbacks, best in the league. And a lot of that was because he was escaping. Since then, it's up to 8%. So that's partially because the offensive line hasn't been as good, partially because that escapability hasn't been quite to the elite level it was early in the year. And no team in football this year has pressured the quarterback more per game than Philly. Like, this is, you said yesterday off the air, you're like, the biggest key to this game from an Eagles perspective is something we haven't talked about much yet. We're going to get into it tomorrow. You didn't tell me what it was. I imagine it's that D-line against the Eagles or the Vikings offensive line.
Absolutely.
That is I don't think the Eagles have a lot of paths to victory. That's the one. The Eagles, the D-line dominating the Vikings O-line.
And watching them struggle offensively, and especially the right tackle, against New Orleans, whose line is not nearly as good and deep as Philadelphia.
Either Nick Foles or Case Keenum, Eagles and Vikings starting quarterbacks, wanted to know what it would take for their football names to become household names. Well, it's an NFC title game, apparently. Nick Foles still trying to get his footing. Keenum has his footing, also his arming, a rather gunslinging side to him, not so much grip it and rip it to cross sports, but more of an ambitious side to him. Here he is describing his style of play.
I play quarterback like I know how to play quarterback, and it's being smart with the football, but giving my guys a chance at the same time. You know, it is a fine line, and you got to be smart and make sure you're putting your team in a good chance to win.
All right, after an entire season, we have gotten to the point where we are now breaking down Case Keenum's style of quarterbacking play. So, CeCe, when we say his gunslinger attitude, sometimes he does go out there and he throws a couple balls up, and he's had great receivers to catch them. But is this a good or a bad thing for the Vikings?
Well, the best thing for Case that he's had time. It's easier to identify what type of style a guy is if you have more than a small sample size. When you're a backup quarterback, it's hard to come up with a style because you're just trying not to lose your job. The team is telling you not to lose the game, so you play so apprehensive that it's hard to come up with what's your style. Like, if no one's giving you a chance to develop your style in the pros, like, you don't have no style. What you was who you used to be. Now, Case, because of Pat Shurmur, he knows Case. He understands Case. So he's allowed Case to play a game, and because their defense has been phenomenal, he has created turnovers for him, has given them a short field because they have good special team. It's allowed him to develop confidence, so which in turn his style could be exposed to the team. The team respects Case's style. They know he might throw into traffic a little bit, but he's also thrown more big plays, contested balls. We talked about Stephon Diggs, leads the NFL in that. Yes, he puts the ball where his receivers can make a play on it. But yes, this is Case's style. He is short, a little bit bigger than Drew Brees, Russell Wilson-like, but he plays a lot like Brett Favre. A lot of times, these guys don't get the opportunity because they don't win enough that they can be a little more cavalier with the football, that their personalities can come out in their play.
It's a great point you make that this style is typically not even a backup quarterback. It's a third-string practice squad guy, because if you don't have supreme arm talent or you don't have supreme measurables, if you are going to be a guy that they are not going to develop an offense around, you're just going to be, oh, our quarterback got hurt, you need you to play for a half or a game and a half. They just want you not to make mistakes. And Case was totally honest there. I have seen Case Keenum. I was in Houston when he was in college there, so I saw him set all these records. I then covered the Texans when he was there. So I've seen Case for a long time. And Case is who he is, man. He is going to run around. He is going to throw up 50-50 balls. He does not have it in him to dial it back. And that is my concern for the Vikings in this game, because they don't need him to make huge plays. I don't feel they will need him to make huge plays against the Eagles. Now, if Carson Wentz were playing, I would say, hey,
of course,
absolutely, you need a quarterback who can make a few big plays. And by the way, Jenna, it's why his upside has been what it is. If he was just a poor man's Andy Dalton, instead of a homeless man's Brett Favre. If he was just like, I'm going to game manage this thing, his upside would be much lower. But you also would have less of a chance that he lose you a game.
But the concern to me comes when you say, hey, here's X, which is what you've been doing for the last 13 games, and to get you here, we'd like you to go in and maybe take a little bit off X. You know what, just give us Y, and that should be enough. My concern is when you tell a guy who's been doing it one way, maybe back off a little or do it just a little bit differently. Don't you want him in the same exact headspace that he's been in?
Yeah, I think that's what the Vikings coaching staff and Pat Shurmur will do to them. Not only is Case going there trying to win the NFC, Pat Shurmur is trying to go back there and send a message too, because he has history in Philadelphia. I think he has the Giants job. So I believe that his ability to develop quarterbacks is very important. He's going to get Case to play an aggressive style. They have a very good defense, and he has enough tape to be able to trust Case. That's the big difference. If you ask me who's the better quarterback in this game, Case Keenum's a better quarterback right now than Nick Foles is. So I'm less concerned about Case because he has a style. Nick Foles is trying not to lose the Eagles the game.
I agree with Cris that I mentioned earlier that in a vacuum, theoretically, I would love to be able to say to Case Keenum, hey, man, just play real conservative, play as if we have a 17-point lead the whole game.
That's not managing that's just taking off.
Well, but that's also, it seems like it's not possible. This is one of these theories that I've always had that then I talked to Cris about, and he's like, okay, yeah, that sounds great, but you can't actually implement it.
It sounds good talking to your buddies or at a bar.
Right.
But don't play out in real sport.
But that you can't implement it with real human beings who are asked to go do it.
Yes.
He's done this repetitively throughout. When we go back to the Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater discussion that we had so often, I think the way Case has played, I think Case has shown you, at least from what I'd seen most recently of Teddy, that Case's best is actually better than Teddy's best. The reason that I was so adamant I thought they'd go to Teddy at some point was because the Vikings are so great defensively. They don't need a quarterback with a ton of upside. They need the perfect quarterback for them is a game manager, not a gunslinger. It's one of the reasons why Sam Bradford worked for them last year.
Well, but that also what makes this team better than any of those other teams. In the last 3 years, the Vikings defense has been in the top 3. What results do we have from it? Nothing. The reason why the Vikings are a special team is because Case Keenum and his ability to put the ball to either one of his wide receivers that they can make big plays. These are not like the Baltimore Ravens or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their offense is a lot better than those offenses, and that's why I believe that this is a tremendous challenge for Philadelphia with Case Keenum. And if you'd have thought 2 months ago, oh, we're going against Case Keenum, they would have been licking their chops.
They would have been absolutely
Only
thrilled.
Someone could have just come up with this 2 months ago.
Jenna, I don't think you've mentioned that enough.
How is that possible? When you only have one, you can go like that. You hang all your hats and all your clothes and everything on that one peg. Welcome back to First Things First. If it weren't for the unreal ending to the Vikings-Saints game, the play we might all still be talking about would be that catch right there, made by Adam Thielen. And would you look at this? Who got up early to join us this morning on our show? Adam Thielen. Adam!
Yes.
Applause all around. First of all, congratulations. Thank you so much for being with us on the show this morning. How you feeling today?
Pretty good. I can't complain. Obviously, we're ready to get back to work, and we're sick of seeing the Minnesota Miracle. We're ready to get back to Philadelphia.
Well, great news, because we're going to talk about it for yet a little bit longer. So our guy CC was at the game. He was on the field. He came back. He described to us in vivid detail what was going on. What he wasn't was in uniform in that play when that actually happened. So if you would just enlighten us one more time at least, what was your reaction being on the field and watching that all unfold?
Well, I couldn't move. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I was pretty much in the Saints bench at the time, so they couldn't move. I couldn't move, and it was unbelievable. I still can't even really believe it, but I'm ready to get back on the field again.
So I'm going to follow up with one more about that. When you see it happen, or when the play's drawn up, I imagine it's catch it quick, get out of bounds, try to get a field goal. Did you think there was any chance at a touchdown on that play when you guys came out of the huddle?
No, not when we were coming out of the huddle. Case told us before we lined up, he said, hey, somebody's going to get a chance here. I'm going to give somebody a chance and make a play and get out of bounds. And when I saw the ball in the air, though, was when I really, felt like we had a chance to actually score because there was nobody behind Diggs. And the way that the safety missed him, I was just hoping he stayed in bounds and stayed on his feet to score because it was pretty unbelievable. There was nobody behind him to have that guy's back.
The one thing that we felt a little bit bad about as fans watching the game was that we weren't in the locker room to just get a sense of what that celebration felt like. So can you just describe the moments afterwards when you all finally got in there, when the euphoria was just starting to settle in and kind of whirl its way up?
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective, I guess, all the work we put in since OTAs, training camp, all the practices through the season, all the games in the season to actually have this opportunity. I think it all kind of just came out in the locker room like, wow, the work is paying off. The GMs, the coaches, everybody's hugging each other, high-fiving, and just saying what just happened because it all happened so fast. We really just kind of were in shock still, like I said before. But, yeah, everybody just the emotions came out. And now to have this opportunity this week, we really got to take advantage of it because what happened last week doesn't mean anything if we don't take care of business this week.
After looking at the tape, I know Philadelphia, they're very, very impressive, Adam, from a defensive standpoint. They got a rotation, 7 defensive linemen going out. They play some man-to-man coverage on the outside, also play some zone. What do you look for as far as this matchup with this Vikings offense going against this very, very good Philadelphia Eagles defense?
Yeah, well, obviously, for me, I really focus in on the secondary. And the one thing that pops out on tape with this secondary is there's not a whole lot of times that receivers are catching the ball in space. There's a lot of contested catches, which is a lot of credit to them. It means that they're covering guys extremely well. They're extremely well coached. They're in the right spots because, like I said, there's very few times I've seen on film where guys are catching it wide open and being able to run after the catch and things like that. So we're gonna have to really come with a really good game plan and making sure that we're doing the little things to gain separation.
Adam, you mentioned contested catches, that there's not a lot of wide open windows. One thing you and your counterpart, Stephon Diggs, have been near the top of the NFL this year is those contested catches. Now, those don't happen if the quarterback throwing the ball doesn't trust you guys to make those plays. How important for your guys' success has been the symbiosis, if you will, between Case trusting you guys to go up and making a play and you guys not letting him down by going up and completing those plays?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it means a lot for Case to have trust in us, and I think that starts with practice. I think Diggs and I and all of us as receivers, skill position guys, we kind of pride ourselves on making those plays in practice so we can gain that trust in a game. And it's kind of funny because in the game, actually, Case came up to me after one of the third down catches I had, and he said, man, I didn't even see you. I just trusted you were going to get open, which is pretty cool as a receiver to hear because that's what you want. You want to be given that opportunity. Every time you run a route, you run it to get open, and you want the ball in your hands. So when the quarterback has trust like that, when he can't even see you and he's throwing the ball and expecting you to make a play, it's pretty cool.
Adam, I would imagine, and I've covered Super Bowl week many times, or the conference titles weeks, and I know that the question you probably get asked more than anything is about Case Keenum, and there's a lot of media surrounding, a lot of articles and whatnot surrounding Case Keenum and Nick Foles in this one. So I have to ask you this. Not many people were on the Case Keenum bandwagon like you guys were as a team early on in the season. And you guys were out there saying, this is our guy, this is our guy. And he did nothing but go in there and help you guys win week to week. He has gotten you to the NFC Championship game right now. And I just have to ask how impressed you were with the way Case Keenum played in that playoff game last week and what you're looking forward to out of him this week.
Yeah, I think every week, me personally and as a team, I think we're more impressed each week. It's it's impressive what he's been able to do this season, stepping in for Sam and trying to be a leader and taking over this offense. And we're going to need him to keep doing those things, which we can completely trust him to do that because of the way he prepares. I mean, there's nobody. I know it's cliche to say about a quarterback that he's the first one in here and the last one out, and He prepares like nobody else. But it's the truth. This guy, I've never seen somebody memorize a game plan before the week even started. And it's just really impressive. And those are the things that make him successful. People think that, we just show up on Sundays and start slinging the ball around, but they don't really see what he does throughout the week.
So you're impressed with Case as far as that you don't see that type of understanding and volume of the offense. Has that helped you guys from the offensive coordinator standpoint? He's seen how Case has played. He's got confidence in Case, and he has the whole volume of offense. All coordinators say, oh, we're going with the backup. We're going to run the same offense. But the Vikings actually are running the whole volume of offense based on what you're telling us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's allowed Coach Shermer to really do what he does. I think sometimes, as coordinators, they can get kind of pigeonholed and into certain things with having to do play a backup and things like that. But like I said, Case has done such a good job of just kind of making this offense his own. And I think he said that early on this season. He said, this is my offense now, and I'm going to make it my own and try to get it to the point where I can start making checks at the line, and the coaches trust me to really open it up. And like I said, that only helps the offensive coordinator and us as players, because that gives us the ability to do a lot of things and make a lot of things look the same, and be able to disguise things.
This was your first career divisional round playoff game. You've got Cris Carter, John Randall, a bunch of other all-time Vikings greats on the sidelines. Before the game, you can really feel the importance of it. Can you tell us what that was like pregame? And if you would, because CC, he won't tell me, what did he say to you after the game? Just spill it. I'll mute his mic. Just tell us both those things, please.
No, it was awesome, obviously, to see CC before the game, and after the game, it was a cool moment. Got to get a picture with my guy, and he just said he was proud of us, and us as receivers, even Diggs, not being from Minnesota, he looked up to him and the plays that he was able to make, and those are the guys that made us want to play this game and play at a high level. So it was really cool to see all those guys there, the alumni, the fans, the atmosphere that place had was just unbelievable. And everything leading up to that week with I think there was every middle school and elementary school did a Skol chant and sent it to us. So we felt the energy from around Minnesota, that's for sure.
Adam, no extra pressure, but it's very, very rare that we hear of a story like yours. No scholarship opportunities, not invited to the combine. As a little boy, you had a lot of dreams, but a lot of those dreams included playing for the team that potentially you get a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Adam, be honest with me. What would it personally mean for you? So many people have given up on you. People said you were too small, you shouldn't play offense, all those things. To be able 60 minutes from making the Vikings potentially get the team to a point where they've never ever won the Super Bowl before. Inside as a little kid, what's it feel like?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable to think about that. I think for me, honestly, just all the work I put in, all the work that this team has put in, you look back to how long ago OTAs seems and training camp and things like that. And like I said, just all that work that you put in, that's what makes it even more special, and what makes it even more, even makes it a bigger game, because you don't put all that work in, and you don't do all those things. You don't, go through high school and try to get into college and try to make it in the NFL. You don't do all those things to not want to win a Super Bowl. So, that's the main goal. That's the thing you always look for every season. You start the new season, and that's what you want to do. So obviously we know this is a big game and something that we've been working for and striving for a long time. So this opportunity doesn't come very often either. So we're going to try to make sure that we take advantage of that.
Well, Adam, we know you do still have more work to be done. It is 7:30 a.m. where you are. You have a full day and a couple more days until this game. We wish you the best of luck, and we thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much, Adam. Good luck, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
The NBA All-Star starters were announced yesterday. In the East, LeBron leads the way with Kyrie, Giannis, Joel Embiid, and DeMar DeRozan. And in the West, the starters will be Steph Curry as your captain, my captain, followed by James Harden, KD, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins. These are great teams. But this year, the teams will be drafted by captains LeBron and Steph. So we are going to do our own little draft.
We are?
Yes,
Oh,
Nick.
I'm so.
I hand it over.
I
Begin
know
the
this
draft.
isn't really your thing, but I asked the people before the show if
It also lets you know it's not my show.
What? It's our show.
Yeah, that's what I know.
Our show. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm Team LeBron, you're Team Steph.
Really?
Is that okay with you?
I'll take Steph.
Okay.
No problem.
All right,
Absolutely.
so LeBron has the first pick. So with the first pick of the
Not only does he get LeBron's team, but he also gets LeBron the first pick. Is it your court? Is it your ball? I mean, like...
Listen, LeBron actually does have the first pick. He got the most votes. He gets the first pick. The NBA decided that, not me.
All right. I defer to you.
I'm picking James Harden first.
No problem. I'll take Durant.
Okay.
All right. Need some silence. Anthony Davis, please.
Did you say you needed some silence?
No problem.
Size.
I'll take Giannis.
Oh, Greek freak. Boogie Cousins.
No problem. I'll take Joel Embiid and Riri. If you want to reconsider the offer, and the big fella, he's on my team. All right. If you want to give him a little date, because he's an all-star now.
All right. So that means all we have left is DeMar DeRozan and Kyrie Irving, and I see what you've done here. You've tried to box me in. You think I won't take the best player available because of some petty personal conflict, and you know what? You know me too well. I will take DeMar DeRozan. I don't need that flat earth traitor Kyrie Irving on my team.
No problem.
So
the one championship your guy got recent was because of Kyrie Irving. I'm going to take Kyrie Irving. And if you keep it up, Kyrie Irving, Nick hangs out at the Red Rooster.
You got to stop. Kyrie ain't going to show up.
Hey.
A lot of people don't like me, man.
Flatten his nose.
Okay, well, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. All right, so let's see our teams. Good job with the graphics department, guys.
That was fast.
Oh, my team's a 5.5-point favorite.
No problem. And once you bet on them, that's going to go the other way. If you know anything about Vegas and Nick, I like my squad.
Yeah, but
Steph, Durant, Giannis, Joel Embiid.
You don't got
Come
enough
get
size.
some.
You don't got enough size. Put you in the torture
It's
chamber
the new
down low.
NBA.
Yeah.
How many shooters you got?
What?
Oh,
Harden?
what? No, don't say what.
I got Harden. That's all I got Harden. I got some size.
LeBron's also his free throw shooting starting going back the other way.
Listen, I know he missed 5 in a row.
Which team is going to play better defense? Oh, it's the All-Star game. So
yeah, there's not going to be a lot of
on the
defense.
show. No,
it's going to be
It's
308
Los
to
Angeles.
301.
No, we got to put on the show because there is no showtime with the Lakers. So the All-Star game.
Can I ask you the question real quick before we move on? I took James Harden #1. LeBron does have the #1 pick. He can't pick Steph because Steph is the other captain. Who do you think LeBron will pick?
Man, I got no clue. I wouldn't be surprised if he picked Durant.
If he picks Harden, the inkling that LeBron might end up in Houston next year will get louder. If he goes with Harden over Durant, because he can't pick a teammate because he doesn't have a teammate on here, Durant's obviously the best player available. If he goes with Harden over Durant, whether it's fair or not, people will start to echo that sentiment that he might end up in Houston.
Good. If he takes Joel Embiid, he believes in the process. Maybe he's headed to Philly. That would be a major upset.
That would be if he takes Joel Embiid with his first pick, then I think we should bet that he's going to Philly.
On paper, guys, the Cleveland Cavaliers own the Orlando Magic. They've beaten them 19 of their last 20 times. But last night's win was anything other than celebratory. Cavs found a way to blow a 23-point lead. In the third quarter, they missed all 9 threes and shot 6 of 20 overall. But due to a fluky last few seconds, they eked out the win. Here's LeBron after the game.
We want to play better, and we know we have the ability to do it, but right now we're in Strugglesville. But it felt like a win. We needed it, definitely.
It's a cerebral answer from a cerebral-looking fella after that game there. Nick, what was the most concerning part about this Cavs' very narrow escape last night?
I mean, they were terrible in the second half. It was as bad of a second half, or as bad of a half as they've played in a win. It was the worst half of basketball they've played in a win since the first half of the Knicks game you and I went to. Remember that when they were awful, they ended up coming back at the end?
Right.
We feel differently about games where teams play poorly in the first half and then play great in the second half. Like, that would be an encouraging sign. There's very little to be encouraged about from last night's game. LeBron, who's usually the one constant on the team, was awful. Like, he was awful by his standards, and he was below average just by really good player standards. And he had a couple perplexing turnovers late in the game. He missed his first 5 free throws of the game. Kevin Love continues to look like a different guy in games Isaiah Thomas plays in. Derrick Rose came back and looked just like the Derrick Rose from before the injury, which was an unplayable Derrick Rose. That's not a compliment.
You didn't think he looked better than that? Unplayable?
Man,
he had 9 points in 13 minutes.
I watch Rose, and I feel like of a team that doesn't seem to be good defensively, he looks particularly lost defensively. And to me, he can only get his points in transition. Like in transition, he can get his points. Like if Rose is a part of their rotation, I think that's a bad sign. So no, there weren't a lot of encouraging signs to me, even though they got the victory.
I thought Isaiah, in playing almost 30 minutes, was more explosive. He was more sudden. He looked like he knew what he wanted to do. Also, I felt like even though Cleveland did lose the big lead, which I don't like that, but I saw some in-game situations that I'd like to be able to see them. I saw them lose the lead late. I saw them trying to, when they had a go-to play, I didn't know what they would do with IT on the court with LeBron for the first time. They went pick and roll with LeBron and IT. So that can be a winning formula for them. So getting those reps, Isaiah getting into the lane, drawing the foul, hitting the free throws, which end up being the game winner. To me, I saw some positive things because IT was playing in critical minutes. He's almost up to 30 minutes a game. And I saw some suddenness. And the half court, what they decide to run at the end of the game, I believe will pay them dividends down the road.
Is the most important thing now moving forward for the Cavaliers just to get Isaiah Thomas back into game shape, in a rotation, make sure he's healthy and get him playing? Is it just Isaiah Thomas should be the focus?
Well, it is. That is the primary focus. But as soon as that happens, they need to figure out a way to get the best out of Kevin Love with Isaiah Thomas on the court. Like the reality is, if Kevin Love is your second best player, you're going to have a really hard time winning a title. So you need Isaiah to be your second best player, and you need Kevin Love to be a very good option as your third option. And, I mean, we can show it, like Love with and without IT. The points are per 100 possessions. It's 32 to 21. His shooting percentage dips by, what is that, 15%? His field goal percentage dips by 5%, nearly 6%. Like, Love has just been a different guy with Isaiah Thomas on the court, and that's something they have to fix. Like, they cannot. Go ahead, Jenna.
No, it just seems like there's no solutions that are out. The only solution seems to be either stuff him in there and try to make it work, or it doesn't work. I don't see. It's not an option for Kevin Love to be the second option.
No, though, there is a solution, and that's him playing more time. Isaiah Thomas is not a point guard. He is what you call a scoring guard. That means he might not run the offense as efficient as a true point guard, but he's going to be able to score the ball more than typically a point guard too. You also have to realize LeBron was the point before. He's at an all-time high as far as assists. LeBron is great at getting players in the position that they love to score the ball the most. So that's the compromise now. He went from LeBron was his point guard, getting him the ball where he was featured the number one option on the offense, compared to IT, where he is the third option, and we're trying to get IT involved in the game. So that's where the Cavs are right now. LeBron James is a better point guard than Isaiah Thomas, and it's affected the rest of the offense. That part will come back around because LeBron, when they get in critical situations, him and IT will split the ball handling duty.
Do you see a scenario whereby this team can be successful with Kevin Love as the I will not finish my sentence question?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Jeez. Do you see a situation where this team can be successful if Kevin Love is your second option and Isaiah Thomas is not?
No. I'll pause. No.
So then Isaiah Thomas has to be the biggest priority right now to get up and running.
Because the NBA, where it is right now. Look who Golden State has. Draymond, Clay, Durant, and Steph. I mean, they have 4 legitimate superstar players. So you can't be like, is Kevin Love, is he good enough? He's not good enough on the offensive and the defensive end to be able to match up with those players.
If Love were a top 10 player in the league, then maybe the solution would be, listen, we're going to do a LeBron-Love combo. IT, I know this isn't what you wanted. You're going to come off the bench. You're going to be our energy off the bench, scorer off the bench. But a LeBron-Love combo where Kevin Love is in his career, even when he's playing as well as he was a month ago, is not good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors in 7 games. So that's why they have to, you were right, Jenna, the primary focus has to be getting Isaiah Thomas to where he looks like Isaiah Thomas. And that's why
even having Kyrie as the number 2 option was not enough to beat Golden State.
Right.
So, and Kyrie is a better player than Kevin Love.
And that's why IT last night took 15 shots. The game before, he led the team in shots. They are sacrificing some efficiency to get IT back into rhythm, to get IT back into shape. Once they feel like, okay, he's as close to full strength as he's going to be, then they can start actually working on things. Another thing that's important to note is, as CeCe talks about all the time, NBA teams don't practice that much. There's a lot of travel. There's a lot of games. One of the Ty Lue said before this game.
It's a lot of fake fighting, too.
Okay. We actually got to do some practicing. And you saw early in the game they looked a little bit better. But these guys just haven't played a lot of minutes together, a lot of reps together. So as far as, the question, anything to be encouraged or the most concerning part about the game last night, the most concerning part is, while they're working through these things, they still don't have the attention to detail to hold a lead against Orlando.
The thing about Cleveland
Excuse me, I apologize.
They are an old basketball team. And you could see that when they had the big lead. Young teams that are athletic, a lot like Orlando, are able to get back into the game. If they're not making a shot, people say it is a make or miss league. Yes, but it's also those other teams that don't make or miss, they have defense on their side. The Cavs don't have that as a holding card. So when they are missing shots, they are around the middle of the pack as far as NBA, as far as the quality of team that they're going to put on the floor.
Yeah, and my last question will be, I understand now that you've explained it, what the strategy is in sacrificing a couple of things to make sure IT gets in there. But then you have the other side of it, which is the entire conversation we had yesterday. This team's frustrated. This team's tired. LeBron James is annoyed, and he's getting.
That's All-Star game and the trade deadline cure all those woes. And they're going to add a piece of the trade deadline. Everyone's going to get a break at the All-Star game, and they're going to finally be able to see the finish line. Mentally, I'm not worried about this Cavs team. Mentally, if people remember, we talked about January last year. The last 2 weeks of last year, people were worried about them. They looked tired. Boston got the 1 seed. Then they came out and they swept the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. That's not to me, a real concern once the playoffs. You can actually see them in your sights.
Jenna, he's wrong.
I'm wrong?
I allowed him to get to the end, but he's wrong. But
at least you let him get to the end.
They're going to keep struggling. I actually knew what the question was.
You did?
Yeah, about Kevin Love being the number 2.
But hold on. They're going to say what you said again? I just want to understand it. They're going to keep. You think they're going to still continue to mentally and emotionally go through these things we're talking about right now, late in the year when the playoffs are coming up?
I think they're going to continue to struggle the rest of the season.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
I'm Jenna Wolfe, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.